We are literally living in a video game. Choose your destiny, bitch. It's the pimping running through me. But choose your destiny. You don't have to succumb to the negative. You know what I mean? Hi, hello, and welcome to the Cozy Little Book Club. I'm your host, Taylor. You're probably wondering why I'm dressed like this. It's because I'm so excited. I'm fully in the character of what this book is about. I didn't even invite Boo in this one. Actually, he's sleeping. He didn't want to come. But still, I'm so geeked. And I feel like I look really cool, you know what I'm saying? Yeah, what? Today, I plan on taking you on a journey through the early 1900s to learn all about the great game of pimping. And great might be a little bit of elaboration because it's deeply problematic. But anyway, the book we're getting into today is Pimp, The Story of My Life by Iceberg Slim. I want to start off by saying that reading this book was a long time coming. While I finally read it last year, I was supposed to read it many years ago. Lots of boys and young men from my lifetime have said that this book has put them on a lot of game, and I've always been curious to know what that game was. And boy, was I in for, I don't know if it's a treat, but I was in for a surprise when I actually did read this book. So you might be wondering why I'm dressed like this. I believe in fully getting involved with the book. And I feel like if I was a pimp, this is how I would dress. Like sexy, but I'm not playing. Like, you will get smacked with this hand, bitch. I'm just kidding. I am way too moral to be a pimp. Also, I do realize that Pimp is an autobiography, and that means that it is not fiction. Though I do feel like some parts of this has to be fiction. Like some parts of it has to be fiction. But regardless of what category we put this book in, this book and the storytelling of it will definitely leave a lasting mark on you for sure. Oh, whew. And there's trigger warnings galore, okay? There are cases of drug abuse, addiction, exploitation, and sexual manipulation. I think that's what I would say. So, yeah. Like I said, deeply problematic book. Okay, let's get into the book. Oh, and today I actually have the physical book. So before I forget, bam. So this is Iceberg Slim's Pimp. Yeah. Read for a cold mother. Shut your mouth. A jive turkey. A cold mother clucker. Shout out to the library. Come on. The library want to know about the pimping game, baby. It's available for everybody. This story is basically about the inner workings of pimping and the raw and unfiltered look at street life. The story starts off in Chicago in the early 1920s. Slim is raised by his single mother after his father abandons the family. Now being the sole provider, she's trying to figure out how she's going to make money to feed her and her son. Her hustle and determination is what inspired Slim to start hustling himself. That and his desire for cold, hard cash. Anyway, his mother's desire for financial stability led her to dating some questionable men and led her to making even more questionable decisions. This had a large psychological effect that really affected him throughout his entire life. They eventually moved to Milwaukee, and that's really where Slim's delinquency started to take off. And then he started to commit some crimes, one that actually landed him behind bars for a few years. On the inside, Slim met a pimp who put him on game on how to get into the pimping game by basically manipulating women. After getting out, Slim was ready to take on the world and get his money up. So he began hanging out with and learning from other hustlers and pimps such as Sweet Jones. From those teachings, he started gathering women one by one to, and I quote, make his own stable of whores. Yeah. I'm gonna apologize, even though I'm not even nearly done through the summary of this book. There's gonna be a lot of foul language in this book, okay? There's gonna be a lot of foul language because that's how they were talking in the 1920s through the 40s. I mean, people still have foul language, like, please. But yes, the casual use of bitch and whore, Nothing. It's nothing. Don't even worry about it. So I apologize. Don't play this around the kids, okay? Don't play it around the kids. This is for the adults. As you continue to read, he explains the power dynamics of the street, the different types of prostitutes, and the psychological tactics he uses to maintain control over the women. He also delves into the violent rivalries between other pimps and, of course, the police officers who try to stop his pimping. Over the years, Slim's pimping career, which is such a funny thing to say, but his pimping career takes him throughout many cities throughout the Midwest. He uses charm, manipulation, and fear to maintain power over his hoes. Slim describes in very explicit detail the strategies he uses to turn out these women and get them to pretty much join his whorehouse, often preying on their vulnerabilities and brokenness to make them more dependent on him emotionally and financially. He believes that control over the mind is more important than physical control. Over the years, Slim tires of the pimping lifestyle. From rivalries to dodging the law, he is slowly getting over it. Dealing with all these women, making sure that they're not talking to you crazy, maintaining that power. It's a lot of work to upkeep and maintain. And it honestly is taxing on you psychologically. He also becomes very paranoid and starts using drugs to cope with this problem. And eventually things just start to unravel or continue to unravel, and he ends up in prison again. There he has a shift in perspective of what his life was and what it has led him to. Even from the beginning of the book, he is very smart and understands that what he's doing is super bogus and ultimately just f***ed up, but he still justifies it for his desire of money, power, and status. It takes until he's in jail for him to really shift out of that mindset. And I think it's pretty common for a lot of people who do end up in prison, because you hear it in interviews or if you talk to people that they've had a different perspective and they can reflect a little bit more while they're in prison, you know, doing the time for the crime, whatever that is. You have more time to reflect on who you are as a person because, I mean, you're in there all day. What better place to, maybe not better, but what other place is there to really think about what you've done and how that has affected people and really recognize the harm you've done to others? As problematic as this book is, I will say that there were a lot of things that I actually did really like about the book and some very clearly troubling aspects of it as well. Let me be clear, I don't think that there are any good pimps. Inherently, you're manipulating and exploiting people, so there are no good pimps, okay? There might be pimps that might treat you a little bit better, but at the end of the day, a pimp does not emotionally give a shit about you. They're there to make money and to make sure that you are in line to do what they need you to do to get that money, okay? There are no good pimps. Let's be clear. They're exploiting people in a plethora of ways for money, dominance, just to name a few. And honestly, Iceberg Slim was very monstrous throughout damn near the whole book. But he didn't start out that way. But it doesn't justify that he was a monster for a large part of the book. I couldn't help but analyze this book and think about how this was like a very specific but clear-cut response to how things in your childhood affect you, right? And how people need guidance. Cut and dry. Men, women, everybody needs guidance and positive influences, right? Because ultimately, Iceberg Slim hated his mother. This is what led him to being a pimp. His mother did some goofy shit. I won't get into all of it. She did some goofy shit and that affected him greatly. And because of how that affected him, it led him to be the person that he was. So while he loved his mother, yes, he loved her, but he also hated her because he did a lot of things to spite women without it actually directly being to his mother. So I'm not a parent, but it is really important to think about, not even as a parent, it's really important to think about the things you do and how it affects others. I'm gonna just leave it at that. But on the other side of it, you know I like to talk about free will, baby. You have the power to do whatever you want. Yes, I am not ignorant and blind enough to say that everybody has the same opportunities. We don't. I'm a black person. I know, okay? But I'm just saying, at the end of the day, you can carry that trauma, and how you decide to carry it and move forward, it's up to you. I'm not here to rant. I'm not here to lecture anybody or judge. Everybody makes their decisions for whatever reason that they do. But I'm just saying, at the end of the day, you are a human being with free will. That is what separates us from, what's the word? It's like a word that starts with a C for animals, or us. Not conscious, but either way, it separates us from animals. We have free will. Animals think on instinct. You know what I mean? And we don't have to think on instinct. We have thoughts and feelings. Not the animals don't, okay? But I'm just saying, we have to take ownership for the things that we do based on how everybody has trauma. Period. There's no one on this earth. I can only speak to this earth. There's no one on this earth who has never had a single bad thing happen to them. That is just a part of life. You know, the peaks and the valleys, baby. And that's okay. It is essentially how you internalize and carry those traumas and how you navigate life with them. So, again, he hated his mama. He did not have to immediately become a pimp. That's all I'm saying. You know what I'm saying? He didn't have to beat bitches up. He ain't had to hustle everybody and do crazy things. Those were his choices that he freely made. Yes, your environment influences you, but your environment can influence you in a number of ways. If you around drug dealers, you might be like, yeah, I want to be a drug dealer. Or you might be like, I want to be someone who takes drugs out the street. You know what I'm saying? That's how it affected my community. I want to be a community organizer to get people to stop selling drugs on here. You know, I want to be an activist, whatever you want to do. There's a plethora of, we are literally living in a video game. Choose your destiny, bitch. It's the pimping running through me. But choose your destiny. You don't have to succumb to the negative. You know what I mean? But again, not here to preach or lecture. I'm just saying, there are choices, and you make them, okay? So, remember that. He hated his mother because she got swept up in the wrong men. And he blames her for how he turned out. And how he hated her is what essentially affected his relationship with women moving forward. His relationships with women were based on coercion, manipulation, and violence. Like, these are the things that he acted out because he couldn't act it out to his mother. You know what I mean? So it is like really, this book is like a real psychological trip, honestly, throughout in so many ways. From how Slim had to deal with his own personal issues to how these women are also dealing with things too. The men who are drug dealers, the drug addicts, the cops. There's so many like psychological. If I was a psychologist in this time, watching everything that was happening around me, I would have a freaking field day because everybody has issues. It's really interesting to see how they all interact with each other because of their issues and how they carry their trauma and how they navigate through it. If they even navigate through it. If they just hold on to it. Remember that song Bag Lady by Erykah Badu? You just carrying that shit. Girl, your back gonna be hurting and you're gonna make crazy decisions because you're not thinking straight because you don't even have the freedom to do it. So I'm kind of going on a tangent because this book has so much to really dive into psychologically. And I thought it was really interesting for that alone, okay? His mind control was diabolical. Nasty word. But high key, them bitches loved it. Like a psychologist's dream this book is. This lifestyle is. It's crazy. You know what I'm saying? Like, they loved it because they were craving some form of attention, some form of love based on whatever was in their life experience. So again, he's using their weaknesses and their vulnerabilities and manipulating them to get them to do the work that he wants them to do. It's insane. This also just tells me that, like, you really need to love yourself. Everybody needs to love themselves. Like, yes, we all go through things, and we have to be able to be willing to really accept ourselves so that we know that nobody can take you off where you are and who you are. You know what I'm saying? When you're solid and you know who you are, they might try to bump into you. It don't matter. You solid, 10 toes down. You know who you are. I mean, even if this book isn't for the kids, like I really wish that this is something that they told kids. You know what I'm saying? Like knowing yourself, or young people, knowing yourself, loving yourself. It don't matter what anybody else got to say, what they trying to tell you. You know yourself. You should know yourself. You should love yourself and accept yourself for who you are. So yeah, them bitches loved it. But it also, again, just really showed me how important it is to have positive role models and guidance. I cannot say that enough. When I actually read this book, I was talking to a good friend of mine. We had a lot of conversations for the necessity of rules and guidance and all kinds of things, you know? But I think that everybody needs rules and positive influences around them. And then even that can be subjective. Like if I'm in a place that I see a drug dealer making a lot of money, that could be, and he's going to show me how to make money, a lot of money to take me and my family out of poverty, that could be a good influence to me. You know what I'm saying? All this is subjective. This is all my thoughts and my opinions. This is, again, not to judge anybody, but I'm just saying it really is like a psychological mind this book is. It really just is, okay? I don't know what else to say. And I can even say that the case and necessity for guidance and positive influences is even more dire now with social media and everything people being so easily swayed and groupthink. We just need positive role models. We need positive images. If you keep seeing the same bogus up stuff, that's what you're gonna unconsciously or subconsciously take in and feel like that's all there is to offer. And let me tell you, it's not. There's so much to offer in this world. You can do whatever you want. This is like both motivational and some real shit. I mean, that's how motivational stuff should be. It is real shit. Life is real. You know what I'm saying? But you always have choices. Yeah. Know yourself, but surround yourself around good people who are willing to uplift you in a positive way. And I could go on a whole rant about how this way of thinking and these influences really affect some communities more than others, but I won't. But I just need you to think about that. You might be surprised when you think about it and open your mind to what's actually going on. Okay, so here are the things that I did and didn't like about the book. Subjectively, I didn't like the abuse and the manipulation, of course. But objectively, it didn't make me dislike the book per se, because the book is about a pimp. Like, what do you expect? Like, we have to be serious with ourselves. And Iceberg Slim was a cold but he was also funny as hell. And I don't know if he was always intending to be. I feel like he probably wasn't, but I thought they were funny. He has some zingers for sure. And on the other hand, he also has some really sad, quotable moments that really showcase the realities of what he was facing. So I'm going to read one. Here's what he said. Any good pimp is his own best company. His inner life is so rich with cunning and scheming to outthink his whores. Sorry, it's not funny. Because that's crazy. That's crazy. So while getting rich was his main thing, he dealt with a lot of loneliness. Maybe not initially, he didn't care, because some part in the book they were talking about being emotional is not for a pimp, period. Like, you have to take your emotions out and put your brain in, your thinking cap, okay? Regardless, he didn't really start to feel this loneliness until he started getting paranoid and his life and all his riches were kind of going down the drain. So that's also kind of funny in retrospect, because people always kind of are more reflective when they're on the down and out, which is kind of like, we should always be reflective, you know, like, how can I check in with myself? How can I be better? What am I doing good at? What am I doing bad at? Like, what can we do? But that's just me. I'm just saying. Iceberg also quickly learned how the world worked when he was on the outside. I have another quote. Why did justice always wear a blindfold? Because justice is always wearing a blindfold. Why did justice always wear a blindfold? Because justice is always wearing a blindfold. Why did justice always wear a blindfold? Because justice is always wearing a blindfold. Why did justice always wear a blindfold? Because justice is always wearing a blindfold. Why did justice always wear a blindfold? Because justice is always wearing a blindfold. Why did justice always wear a blindfold? Because justice is always wearing a blindfold. Why did justice always wear a blindfold? Because justice is always wearing a blindfold. Why did justice always wear a blindfold? Because justice is always wearing a blindfold. Why did justice always wear a blindfold? Because justice is always wearing a blindfold. Why did justice always wear a blindfold? Because justice is always wearing a blindfold. I knew now. It was because the cunning bitch had dollar signs for eyeballs. That was a banger, okay? He was referencing all the cops that he had in his back pocket who really wasn't even trying to interfere with him pimping because he was paying them. We all know that, not just in America, there are plenty of corrupt cops all over the world. When there's money, there's corruption, point blank. But even outside of just cops, just authority figures in general have been corrupt since the beginning of societies. You know what I'm saying? Not that everybody is corrupt, but it just really puts into perspective what justice actually means and who it's for. If you know, you know. And Iceberg Slim, he knew. While I was bracing myself for very violent parts of this book, I also found myself cackling because he was funny as hell, and like his insults were just so old, and I think the only word I can really say are like funky because he would just say some off the wall stuff. And I'll give you another quote. I smelled already it's funny. I smelled the stink that only a street whore has after a long, busy night. I'll actually say that he talked about the stink of the pink a lot throughout this book. It was funny, like, and you know, he was charismatic, so like the girls liked him. He was making them laugh after he beat their ass, you know, like beat their ass and be like, okay, come here, girl, I'll tend to your wounds, which is crazy, but you know. It's crazy. It's not funny. I'm purely laughing because the quotes he said were hilarious. Wait, then let me tell you another one. Let me tell y'all another one. This is probably my favorite one. He said, I went on ruthlessly. Bitch, you are nothing but a funky zero. Before me, you only had one chili chump with no rep. Nobody but his mama ever heard of the bastard. He was going in on their ass. Like, absolutely mean as hell, diabolical, just roasting the shit out of them. That shit was funny. Woo! Okay. And honestly, just the display of pimps were so ridiculous. They were just so outlandish. Like, I didn't get too much into Sweet Jones, but that's who really put Iceberg Slim up. Like, that's who really put him on game and really got him up. You know what I'm saying? But Sweet Jones had some kind of cat. Was it like a Nerval? Some kind of exotic cat. Probably like a kind of cat that I'm wearing right now. Some exotic cat that, like, what's your black ass doing in Chicago with this wild animal just because you rich? Like, you know, like, just ridiculous. Like, I guess that's not even just like a pimp thing. That's like a rich people thing. Like, why do you need a Jaguar, bro? Like I'm hot wearing this, but you know what I'm saying? You wear the mink all down to the floor. Let these niggas know. You know what I'm saying? You want to let them know, so you just gonna do a lot of outlandish stuff to get your point across, to let them know the status. And honestly, pimps were fly as hell. Like, even though I'm hot, I love this. I cannot wear this outside. Come on. I mean, I could somewhere, but I'm not wearing this outside. I look very suggestive, but if I was a pimp and I had like a little cane, boy, you couldn't tell me nothing. A little pimpette and a Corvette. No. Nah, I'm talking shit. Also, I want to say, if there was a soundtrack for all the songs that Iceberg Slim mentioned throughout this, you would just be grooving your ass off. Like, I already kind of consider myself as a funky motherfucker already and a groovy gal, you know what I'm saying? But the music would be so good. Like, you would really just want to cruise and, no. I'm just kidding. You dancing, you smackhead a bitch, no. I'm totally kidding. And as wild as he was, Iceberg Slim pimping and his relationship between pimps and whores really offer a grander perspective on capitalism, race, power dynamics in the US. And I just feel like there's something to be said about that. Okay? Word to Dave Chappelle. If you know, you know. If you don't, get with it. Get with it or get lost. I will also say that it's worth noting that Iceberg Slim really did understand that the life he was living was not only mentally and physically taxing, but psychologically just overwhelming. He knew what he was doing was messed up, and he finally, actually I wouldn't even say finally, because he knew that he hated his mom. I would say that he knew that he had issues with his mother and struggled with that. But I first want to say self-awareness is great. You know, it's great to be self-aware. But what you do with that self-awareness is really what it ultimately amounts to. So it's like, I know that I'm doing bad things, but if I'm not trying to fix the bad thing, who gives a damn? What does it matter? Being self-aware and like willingly choosing things that are not good or beneficial to you or just harmful, who cares if you're self-aware? Because you're still doing the same shit. Who cares? That's how I feel, at least. That's how I feel personally. Oil companies, they're dumping oil into the ocean. They know it. Are they doing anything? No. So just think about that. You know what I'm saying? Just think about it. If you know better, do better. It's really, these old quotes really mean something and are said for a reason. You know what I'm saying? Like, come on. Be for real. Be so for real. He realized how much his hate for his mother and his childhood experiences really impacted who he was and the man he became. So after his second stint in prison, he wanted to make a change. He chose to make a change. You see what I'm saying? The brain connections are making sense. You find out, you address it, you're like, oh, I want to make a change. I don't want to do this no more. Oh, Boo's here. Come here, Boo. Come here. Look at this cat. See? This would be my Nerval. He's furry. Okay, Boo's here. This is my Nerval. Merval? What are them? Serval. It's a serval cat. He's my serval, right? Boop. Anyway, and I know that change isn't easy, especially if you're used to living a certain lifestyle. Taking a deep pay cut and adjusting to that is not easy. But you have to think about your morals. And if you want to be a good person, do it for the kindness of the world. You know what I'm saying? Do it for the world. Now, I know that I put this book up on my controversial or cool series. And you might be wondering what I actually think about this book, if it's controversial or cool. And I say that it's both. You know, obviously it's controversial because there's nothing good about pimping. And Boo said, I'm out of here with that. He said, ain't nothing good about pimping, I'm out. No, but obviously there's nothing good about pimping. But I think that there were a lot of life lessons to be aware of, not learn, because a lot of this was really problematic. And I don't think you have to learn life lessons in that way through immediately trauma, okay? And violence and manipulation and abuse. I don't agree with that. But I do think that for me, hearing how many men or young men and boys when I was growing up saying that this book put them on game, I do wonder what the game is that they got. Because if they talking about how to treat women, that's alarming, okay? That's alarming. But if you're learning how to maybe use some of these mind tactics, maneuvering throughout the world to benefit you that isn't harming people, sure, there was some business savvy idea, not a lot. Most of it had to do with pimping women, but there was something to be gained. But I think ultimately what this book told me the most, it was really just like a psychological portal to really think about how the human psyche and how they deal with things are. You know, that's how I thought about it. Sorry, Boo's hair. Obviously, pimping isn't honorable or victimless, because no matter how many people want to be a whore or whatever, there's some manipulation. But ultimately, we all need love and guidance and positive influences in our life. And that's what I feel like I got the most from this book. Because I never want my children, my future children, to ever feel like they have to be treated that way to get the love that they feel like they deserve. Again, this is not a judgment, but it is a statement that I fully stand by. Boo also stands by it. He's literally standing by me. So honestly, despite the very troubling theme of pimping, I really liked this book. I thought it was enticing read. I think when I actually read this book, it's not that many pages, but I think when I read this book, I probably finished it within about 4 days. I inhaled this book because it was so ridiculous and eye-opening and I don't know, just up. And I thought it was interesting because I was really trying to figure out what these boys were talking about, the game that they learned, because that's disturbing. But from the psychology of it and the unintentional humor, it was a lot to take in and sit with. So honestly, I'm going to give this book a 5 out of 5 golden bookmarks. I read this book last year, and the lessons that I took away from it have had a lasting impact on me, and I'm sure that it'll have a lasting impact throughout my life. And so I see how it has been an influential book for so many people over the years. And so with that wraps up another episode of the Cozy Little Book Club. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you've made it to the end, please leave a little stack of book emojis to let me know. And if you've read this book, please comment down below, because I really want to have a discussion. Because when I've asked men after, and it's always men, it's nothing that women haven't had any game about it. I always hear men saying that they got the game. What is it that you learned? What was it, the game that you learned? So I definitely want to hear from men, but I want to hear from women too who have read this book. If you read this book, period, don't care what you identify as. I want to know what your thoughts are, what you learned from this book. I want to know it all, baby. Like, let me know. Anyway, be sure to hit that subscribe button and click that notification bell so you know anytime that we upload a video, which will be every week. Thank you again for tuning in. I hope y'all have a lovely day. And remember, when you open a book, you open your mind. Until next time, peace. Bitch better have my money. Don't get smacked up with the rings, baby. Don't get smacked up. Now, don't do that. Don't do that, because you about to get, you know what I'm saying? Don't play with me.